That's my hot take.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Hearthstone Grandmasters. We were cutting it fine with our banter there about that media piece because I think we found it just as funny as you guys. Ali Timu, always very formal, always very respectful. It feels like even when he's whistling the Hearthstone main theme to a bunch of idiot casters. But either way, we don't have to worry about him quite yet because we are first of all going to go to Surrender versus Glory. Sorry. It is the winner's bracket match, so the winner of this series will go through straight away to Sunday to the top 4. And I think we are going to start things off with a double Warrior ban and a double Demon Hunter mirror for the first match.
Yeah, I mean, very clean to get all of these things out of the way, very symmetrical. So then we can get into the real LHS fashion of just back and forth, back and forth. But I guess, of course, since we're dealing with a mirror first, the most important thing to talk about is differences in the list. The one that already stuck out to us was just how Glory and Alutamu's Demon Hunters are built with the double ooze. And I think that could play a big role in the mirror.
I think it definitely could. On the other side, the things that could help in Surrender's list, Frozen Shadow Weaver can kind of function like a pseudo-ooze, I suppose, giving you just one crucial turn of freeze up against your opposing Demon Hunter. There's a couple of other things I think that will also really help Surrender. In the double Satyr Overseer, Glory has none, I believe, favoring instead the Glaive-bound Adept. So it's going to be a really interesting balance. I'm not sure who I'd give the advantage to overall, given there's a little bit going either way on both sides. But I think from both players, we've seen some pretty strong Demon Hunter play so far.
For sure. Also worth noting that Questing Adventurer is in the Demon Hunter. That is an archetype that is not to be mentioned ever on GM. Questing Adventurer is in Glory's list this week, and Surrender had it last week, but he's cut it now. Probably looking to just streamline the Demon Hunter for other matchups in an LHS type of field. But I would say that Questing probably isn't the best card to have in the mirror because so much relies on the early game.
Yeah, I think that Surrender may have come to the same conclusion I was kind of thinking may come into actuality and was kind of hoping we may be able to avoid, which was that the first match, the first game of each series would be a Demon Hunter mirror. And so taking the win on that would be of the utmost importance. Glory also arguably came to that conclusion as well, given that he's included double ooze, and is thinking maybe, right, if I have the double ooze for the Demon Hunter mirror, I'm allowed to include the Questing Adventurers for some of the other matchups, like a Druid, Warrior, and decks that struggle with dealing single target removal.
It's true, and you can very much tell that he's run these two oozes for the mirror and nothing else because he's banning Warrior. And
absolutely.
Aside from Demon Hunter and Warrior, there's no other classes that are running multiple copies of weapons. So the ooze is very indicative of his game plan, but let's see if the questings are going to drag him down, as I think the match is starting now. Illidan versus Illidan, the only ever thing you heard the innkeeper say on the first few days of this.
Yeah, I can't wait for when. I mean, I assume eventually there'll be some kind of an alternate hero portrait. I don't actually know WoW lore if there are any other demon hunters. There must be, right? There's a lot of demons. They got to be hunted. Either way, to start things off now for Glory, Battle Fiend right in the middle feels fantastic. It's obviously a bit weaker now as of a couple of days ago, 2 attack instead of 1, so it doesn't trade fantastically against the Blazing Battle Mage. But you obviously have the time to go hero power first, since Glory is going first, so I am very much in favor of this game.
Yeah, it's a very big deal. I would say that the nerf to Battle Fiend is felt a lot more if you're on the coin, but if you have it on the play, you can immediately buff it and not have it value traded on the first turn. But wow, Surrender and Glory have the I-beams far left. Those are premier options to deal with each other's threats, which is, I think, gonna maybe push this game a little bit more into the late game than we're used to seeing from Demon Hunter.
Yeah, I feel like if it carries on like this with both players kind of trading evenly, which it definitely looks like it will at the moment, it may very possibly just come down to the first card draw that is found over the course of this game.
Ooh, not quite even though with this sequence of draws. The Umberwing Twin Slice, very strong for this turn, makes it so that Surrender has to take a reactive turn possibly, and then Glory can keep pressuring with questing second slice. So for Surrender, I like using a Chaos Strike, probably the left one, just to use the mana, and
Yeah.
then he can go I beam, both outcast on a following
Okay,
turn.
yes, I like that too. And then you don't have to use the coin, so you can set up for coin warglaves potentially on turn 4, which sounds like a pretty way to seize back the board. Ooh.
Seems good. Although for Glory, even though the questing looks tempting, and I guess it is his only play this turn, it's just unfortunate that it lines up right into I-beam territory.
Yeah, the thing that you have to consider is that he has to play it before turn 6, right? Because he wants to play Skull of Gul'dan on 6. So it's either you go for it this turn, and maybe they don't have the I-beam, and it disrupts, I don't know, a Satyr coming down on curve, or it's just annoying for them. Or you can go for it next turn with an I-beam as well. But I think I would rather just get the proactive development now and pray they don't have it.
I like the development, but there's also a question of whether he even wants to commit the second slice. I can see a world where you hold it. Granted, I-beam deals with any breakpoint. The 2 health breakpoint is weak to, say, Umber Wing plus hero power, but he did just see a Chaos Strike, so if he's hoping for no removal, he might as well not even commit the second slice. Ooh, but there's the Umber Wing.
It may be the case that Surrender goes for I-beam anyway, given that he wants to start spending some of these cards from the left-hand side so that he can play Skull of Gul'dan on 5, potentially. Oh, on 6, I guess, more likely. But maybe seeing that as not even a possibility.
Okay, something good for Glory to do on this turn. Oh, man. That kind of disrupts this turn and next turn for Glory.
So now the question comes through, do you play I-beam on this turn? Because if you get a 5-mana play next turn, you really want to play that off the top.
Right.
And there's quite a few 5-mana plays in the deck with the Glaive-bound, Warglaves, and Metamorphosis. And so I feel like it's maybe worth playing that I-beam this turn, even though it's not very good, just to guarantee yourself full mana utilization next turn.
It's not quite...
Or is that just stupid?
Oh, well... I get the reasoning, but not for full mana utilization next turn, because you're not guaranteed to get a 5-drop, but it gives you the insurance that if you do get you've already spent the leftmost 1 mana to make sure that Skull of Gul'dan is absolutely coming down on 6 with Outcast.
Yes.
So I like that. But yes, good order, take the full healing, and the turn feels very sad from Glory, but maybe he gets there with double skulls.
Yeah, I mean, even though I was suggesting this play, I'm very far from sure that it's correct. It's obviously a big gamble, because if he gets something a little bit cheaper, then he would definitely wish that he had the I-beam to cast on a more valuable target this turn.
I grow impatient.
Say, well, for Surrender, he could go for some manner of Warglaves play. But it looks like he's just gonna develop some minions and maybe save the coin for Skull of Gul'dan, possibly. And also, nothing on the board really looked good to use the glaives on.
It kind of looks like he might be... well, at the very least, he's giving himself the potential to play Skull of Gul'dan outcasted from the right-hand side next turn. If a Twin Slice is found, or if a 1-drop is found, he could do it in a couple turns.
True. And such a sad turn for Glory there. All 5 mana just floated, but he will be able to be first to outcast the skull, at least.
Yeah, maybe by like 2 turns, because I think even if Surrender sets up here with, like, you know, Warglave's coin I-beam, it's still not working. So I think he's still giving himself the potential to outcast it from the right-hand side.
Right. And I think good recognition from Surrender also that the Warglaves do have to come down, but if he's going to free up the skull, he's got to play the 1-drop anyway, so might as well commit the coin. Ooh, but you forgot the skull? Yeah,
you have to skull.
There's no way that happens here. Just get the other ooze off the skull. Easy.
Yep.
Alas, poor warlock.
Oh man, these are so low value. Okay, that's something. But the others, he hardly even got a discount on. So just 1 slice and the 2 1-drops. Oh, he's holding them all together. Is he saying I need Altruist to come back and you gotta save everything at that point? Or
I guess so, yeah.
oh my gosh, the Satyr Overseer as well. It is beginning to look like Altruist or bust.
We're with you.
Surrender was just the last player to stick minions on the board. Glavebound here could be used, I guess, with a second strike for the cheapest possible option. You can take out the Satyr, Ooze. There's a lot of stuff that can happen. I just don't think it's the right stuff.
I think Chaos Strike draw for play from Glory. He's saying I need exactly Altruist. That's the out. Because
Sure.
if he got Altruist from this, maybe there was a world.
It wouldn't have even
it's
worked
not
though,
this.
right? Yeah. Because there would have been the Glavebound in the way.
Oh yeah, not enough mana.
The fires of vengeance burn bright.
Twin Slice is enough for lethal as well, so Surrender is going to be
Correct.
taking this first game in the series, which is of paramount importance, given that Demon Hunter, I feel like of all the classes, has the highest potential to sweep, and has one of the lowest ways to be counteracted from your opponent, unless you have a specific deck to counteract the Demon Hunter, like we saw from Kin, I believe, with his Galakron Priest to try and counteract the Demon Hunter. I feel like most other players are kind of left high and dry when it comes to getting rid of the Demon Hunter.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that these players had very little time between the nerfs going live and the deck submission deadline. So I would say that a lot of them probably were already just testing things that they thought that they had in mind even before the nerfs dropped. There's very little time. And maybe some players fell into the trap of assuming that Demon Hunter wouldn't be brought so much just because it's getting hit so hard. But it turns out it is still very punishing if you don't come prepared. So now it's not all over for Glory, though, because as we did see with his series against Alutemu, he did have the Rogue to queue into Demon Hunter, and it is Highlander.
That is very true, and he clearly likes that matchup a fair bit. Like we saw, he was looking a little bit shaky in some of the other matchups with the Highlander Rogue, like the Druid, but I feel like the Demon Hunter, he knew exactly what he was doing. I believe he went for like Coin Shadow Jeweler Hanar, which completely locked out his other combo 3-mana cards, but it put him in such a strong position on the board that it kind of didn't really matter. He was just in such a dominant early game position, and I think that speaks to what he knows most about the matchup, which is stop all damage. Any damage to the face cannot happen because you need to be able to... you don't have much ability to heal later on.
Yeah, very true. I do think that we will just be heading to a short break, though, so guys, don't go anywhere. Game 2 coming up right soon.
It's Hearthstone Grandmasters, and we are live with Asia Pacific. This is our second week for the first season here in 2020, and it is the first day here in Asia Pacific. We have our first top four, or our first half of the top eight, I should say, finding out who will be joining us on Sunday for the finals, semi-finals, and finals. This is again to find out who will get the most points here in the Swiss portion. To decide whether you go into the good half of round robin or the bad half of round robin in a couple of weeks' time. And the two players that we have here in this series are Surrender and Glory, one match away from advancing through to the finals on Sunday. And despite Surrender taking a very nice win there in the Demon Hunter mirror, I wouldn't count Glory out quite yet, Gia.
Definitely not. If we learned anything from Glory and Alutemu series, it's that Glory feels pretty comfortable queuing his Highlander Rogue into Demon Hunters, and that's exactly what he's done now, as the stats from Lorinda point out to us that at least in APAC Swiss this week, Rogue, the Highlander version actually has like a 60+% win rate against Demon Hunters. So I think that Glory is still in with a shot in the series.
Definitely. Especially if we can see a hand similar to some of the other Demon Hunter hands we've seen so far today, which have been pretty lackluster, to say the least. I was going to say, I don't think Surrender really wants any of those cards. Umberwing, I suppose it's okay. You know, there's a couple of early minions that Rogue is throwing down, and it has very nice synergy with the Battle Fiend and the Satyr, as an American would say.
The fires of
At least it's not satire, anything but that there.
Satire.
All right, so Glory with, wow, a pretty premium opener even before the Zephyrs came, just like a one-drop backstab and a secret to develop. What you liking for this turn?
So my initial instinct is just Zephyrus backstab, right? Clear the board, you're very far in the lead. I was then wondering, is it ever worth kind of converting your backstab into a wild growth? Okay, well, actually, there's a different line completely. Because what I was going to say is you could backstab the 2/2 and then guarantee yourself wild growth on the following turn. But Glory here, I've got to be honest, I didn't actually know that Zephyrus would offer wild growth there. I thought there was a chance that it might offer one of the other premium 3-drops, quote-unquote, like Brightwing. But well, it worked out great here for Glory.
Yeah, I also wasn't 100% sure, and that goes to show that Glory is very familiar with the order of things, because he didn't even like choose to use his natural backstab in that case. What I'm curious about is his use of the Spy Mistress for, I mean, it's kind of like a cashed-in backstab, isn't it? But for 3 damage. Only able to be cleared through stealth by Altruist effects, I believe. So I'm not exactly sure why he chose to trade that in over using backstab, but I guess the potential for comboing with backstab is something worth noting.
Yeah, I mean, I actually, I agree with you. It wasn't my first instinct, but I think I like it the more I look at it, because as soon as you go face versus Demon Hunter, they just take it out with the hero power, which means you've gained 6 damage, but I don't feel like that's what you're trying to do in the matchup. You know, Spy Mistress is a lot of the time just delayed removal, I feel like, and I think Glory actually played that really well. The one concern I had was just whether or not Zephyrus would give you the card you want if you play it that way, and it did. So it worked out very well for him.
Oh, I was thinking just leaving the Mistress stealthed and then cash
Yes,
it.
yeah, sure.
But anyway.
But even then, pretty much everything has 2 health now in Demon Hunter anyway.
Fair enough. And while we were talking about all of that, a bunch of sequences have happened, and Surrender has gotten only 8 damage in. I say only because on turn 6, Demon Hunters tend to have done more.
Yeah.
Glory's hand now is just good minion after good minion.
It is. It's definitely looking not bad at all for Glory, but he's going to have to be careful because I say only, 21 health, over 2/3 of his starting health total. It's still looking a little bit low versus Demon Hunter. These Warglaives of Azeroth can really start to chew through this very quickly.
Especially with the Chaos Strike also loaded up. But Surrender here has an option to maybe go for Spectral Sight Frozen Shadow Weaver and delay the weapons for a bit. Because on turn 6, say, the Warglaives plus hero power could then deal with Flick and Go Face. So it's a tough choice. I think I'm liking the look of the Shadow Weaver the more that I see it.
Yeah, it does mean you could just go Warglaive's hero power next turn, which takes out the Flick really nicely. It just kind of lines up a bit more nicely,
And the draws, it also opens up, I guess, getting twin slices, or he does run double Satyr Overseer, right?
Yeah.
And which is obviously great synergy with the Warglaves. Those are not the best at the moment, but Surrender decides they're better than just the one minion here because Rogue tends to struggle a bit more against whiteboards.
Yeah, I think freezing the 4/4 wasn't that good really either because it just kind of stops 4 damage to face, or I suppose a trade if you go wide here. Whereas next turn you can just very easily clear up with the Warglaves.
Glory here deciding to go for Divine Shield Rush when my first instinct was to go for Rush Wind Fury just to get rid of the most stuff.
What about Taunt? Is it not Divine Shield Taunt?
No.
You got to stay alive.
Well, he's not seen the Warglaves yet. I don't know. I if I had seen the Warglaves, maybe.
Whoa.
Wow! He's just going for the straight up alpha play. Racing the Rogue. I bet Surrender's really happy he kept the Shadow Weaver now.
Oh my goodness, yes. Yeah, it really couldn't have worked out much worse, to be perfectly honest, for Glory here.
I mean, I don't fault him for not taking Taunt because all he saw on board at that moment was a weapon and 2 1/1s.
Yeah.
But the win Fury and not being able to attack this turn seems mega greedy to me.
Yeah, I mean, I get what he's going for because Wind Fury is not only a race mechanic, it can also be used to trade more effectively if Surrender goes wide on board, which is something he does need to be afraid of over the next few turns. It's not like if he doesn't die to burn damage, he wins the game. He could also lose board. So maybe he just made the right choice and it didn't work out, but it was a really difficult decision.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just not a big fan of Divine Shield in that situation, given there are 2 1 attack minions on board. Like, not a big deal for Surrender to deal with. Granted, he could have gone like Divine Shield Rush and taken out the Battle Fiend. In any case, Surrender with the Chaos Strike and Warglaves.
I agree, Gia. I wanted to see a world-first Wind Fury Taunt. No one has ever done that before in history, and Glory could have made history. Maybe it wouldn't have been so good.
Surrender was very scared of the Bamboozle there. I mean, if you're expecting Bamboozle, was it even worth dealing with the... I mean... I guess the Wind Fury puts him in a situation where Surrender gets a little scared. In a strange, roundabout way, to quote one of Raven's favorite lines. Maybe this worked out for Glory?
I guess. Can he ever go for lethal over the next couple turns?
Time grows short.
With Eviscerate and Generated Eviscerate off of a Lackey? Because Surrender's tanking this, it looks like. Because he wants to set up a lethal of his own.
We're with you. We're with you.
I don't see a way for it to happen on this turn. So he's going for Alaza into Crazed Netherwing? Question mark? That would be nuts, wouldn't it?
Nethra and Damas can get 2 wisps.
That would be nuts, wouldn't it? It is a bit nuts. But Surrender very happy to see no, what do you call no Nozari and no Netherwing.
Yeah.
His board is intact and the health total was within reach. So there you have it. Surrender takes it. Still wonder a little bit about the CMI play. It seemed like Glory was in such a... I mean, he had the board at that point, for sure.
Yeah.
Warglave's definitely still a threat, but the Divine Shield Wind Fury was something else.
Yeah, it was a very brave play, and it almost did work out, to be fair. He was just missing a little bit of that mid-game to close things out in terms of the damage. But I think for Surrender, it was a very, very well-played game indeed. The fact that he, on turn 5, where I feel like it was the real crucial decision point for him, does he go for the Warglaves, or does he go for the draw with Spectral Sight? He decided to go for the draw. We were anticipating the freeze as well, but he diverted from that game plan, and holding the freeze was the absolute winner for him there. That's just what undeniably gave Glory no chance of taking it at all and propelled Surrender up to 2-0, which means now Glory is left only with his Druid, which he has to reverse sweep Surrender on both Rogue, Hunter, and Demon Hunter.
Yeah, if he wants to win the series. And it is looking very, very unlikely, but that is kind of just the nature of the beast when we are talking about LHS. If your first deck wins the mirror, okay, Glory happened to have still a decent counter. It lost a favorable as well, so now Surrender is just... It's looking like smooth sailing for him to yet again make it to day 2 as the top seed without any losses in the Group A bracket.
To answer for.
Sorry.
I think he actually...
Yeah, he did.
Yes.
Some games. Who was it?
But still...
It was Possessy, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And Surrender would have to get through to the top 4 2 weeks in a row, but not even the top seed both times. Get him out of here. We may as well relegate him right now.
Oh my
That's
God.
pathetic.
Can you even imagine?
He cannot sit with us casters. He's banned. Crystal Power for the Druid, I think, is definitely the premier card versus Demon Hunter, especially when even more of their cards are now down to 2 health. Frenzied Fellwing joining the rest of the pool down as a 3-2 now.
Yep, and crucial to note that Crystal Power also lines up very well into 2 health minions. Generally, Frenzied Fellwing is still a keep though, but looking at Surrender's hand, you'd much rather have the Battle Fiends or just weapons to make sure that the Fellwing gets down as early as possible. The Sightless Watcher is less reliable in that regard because it can get removed. So, bit of a dice winner for Surrender. No good 1 or 2 drops, but he can at least go for the Overseer Twin Slice on turn 2.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. I think as long as the Satyr is unanswered, then he should be in a very, very good spot. Obviously, we can see it does have an answer available, but even just the 2-2 left on board, Frenzied Fellwing should be able to come down a little bit earlier, and he'll at least be in a decent spot once Skull of Gul'dan time rolls around.
Yeah. Speaking of dicey hands for Glory, it's even worse. I mean, the Innervates have potential to be great, but they are dead in hand if Glory doesn't draw into, say, a Fungal Fortunes or Glowfly Swarm. And yeah, after this first Crystal Power is used onto what I think will be the Satyr Overseer this turn, Glory might just have to pass.
Feels pretty horrible though, doesn't it?
It does. Surrender's other option, I guess, is to pre-equip the Umberwing and then try and go for a turn where he's got the Overseer and the Fellwing developed on one turn, which is quite powerful given that Glory's list is not running Starfall, I believe.
Yeah, I think I like Surrender's choice here to not go for the Satyr. He was obviously considering, are there any break points where he can't remove it? But given that Bog Beam is 3 mana anyway, even if he coins out the Satyr with the Twin Slice, it's still going to die to any removal that Glory has access to.
So this is just go in turn, right? Cash in both Twin Slice or I guess a coin hero power, but I don't really like the look of coin when he's got Skull.
Yeah.
So Overseer, double Twin Slice, ship 4 to the face, player free Fellwing, and chill.
I like the sound of that too. The other consideration, I suppose, is Coin Cane gets technically like a bigger health minion on the board. Like your board is much more varied then. It's not just a bunch of 2 and 1 health things.
True, but I feel like the Satyr has way more payoff the earlier you get to play it.
Okay.
But
I think
again, it's worth considering because obviously Surrender looks at every possible option before making a final decision. And if only Glory had the luxury of options in this case.
Yeah.
Ooh.
The other thing to bear in mind is that despite the fact that we keep forgetting it time and time again, Kayn is a very powerful card in this matchup when a lot of taunts go on in the late game. Sure. So holding on to that for as long as possible for Surrender feels like a good move.
So Glory can go Overgrowth Coin, Crystal Power, but he's not ramping into anything specific. He is hoping for something like an Overflow off the top, maybe a Mount Seller. Surrender nods his head, is preparing for the worst, but little does he know, it's not in hand yet. So...
It's not like he has an especially good way to capitalize on this turn, though. Does he just throw down the cane, despite the fact
I
how
think
powerful
so.
we know it to be later on? Just play it?
I think so. Well, given that he has no other great plays this turn for development, and the 5 health isn't all that easy for Druid to deal with. It's gonna take Bog Beam plus another Bog Beam or Wrath or the second Crystal Power. It's asking for 2 card combinations.
The other thing to consider there, however, was that if you go Chaos Strike, it allows Coin Skull on turn 5. Whereas now you have a turn of probably bad development before you can go for the Skull.
Oh. But if he goes about it this way, maybe he's just not looking to coin Skull and instead Chaos Strike and play whatever comes off the top.
Yes, well, clearly, unless he wants an un-outcasted Skull.
But yeah, Glory... I don't fault him for cycling the Wrath because the hand had just a bunch of nothing. But I'm not sure
I mean,
if
his
it
only
was
chance,
meant to
really.
be cycled on the Fellowing.
I'm waiting.
Sure. I don't know. I don't hate it. I mean, now he has, what, Bog Beam, right? So he can take out a 2-2 and the 1-3, the 3-1, sorry. And the next turn, Vate Alexstrasza Ironbark. It's his only chance of winning this game.
Okay.
I guess the fact that Altruist survives kind of puts that out of contention, however.
Right.
Hmm.
My thinking was just that he was cycling the Wrath, definitely looking for some type of removal, right?
Yeah.
And if you're hoping for removal, you should be cycling on either King, because you're gonna Bog Beam and Hero Power the 2-2, because you're gonna Hero Power the 2-2
Sure.
and Bog Beam the 3-2. It's a small
Okay.
thing. And
But with the way it worked out, actually, he would have been in a much better position if he'd gone with the cycle on the Cane.
right.
And then he could Bog Beam Hero Power it down and get down Ysera Ironbark and maybe have a chance of winning.
But of course, that's relying on exactly Bog Beam or second
Yeah.
Wrath.
Of course.
In any case, it looks like it's gonna have to be Overflow and a Dream here if he wants any chance, but that's not it.
See.
GG.
Wow. Well, that was last hero standing. That is what Demon Hunter can do. Even with 2 waves of nerfs, it is still an absolute powerhouse. And to an extent, I'm glad. I think it's a very, very fun class to play, and I'm sure Surrender agrees with me right now.
For sure. He has had a very, very clean path going to yet another Sunday for these weeks of Swiss. And Dara,
Insane.
for week 3, what do you think the nerfs are going to be for Demon Hunter? Are we looking at Spectral Sight to 5 mana, Metamorphosis to 1 charge, Skull of Gul'dan to 8 mana? No, I don't know. But
No.
man,
It's clearly not enough, Gia. We need to go to the root of the problem and nerf Surrender. His brain is just too big. It's too powerful, too wrinkly. We need to smooth it over a little bit, or we just don't stand a chance against him.
I can get behind that. But it would be such a shame to lose any of the wrinkles on that brain. I don't know where I was going with that line. But anyway, Glory is not out of it yet. He is waiting for the winner between Alutamu and Shaxi's elimination match to decide who ultimately gets to join Surrender from Group A for our Sunday top 4.
And we can take a look at that right now with the bracket for Group A once again. A huge congratulations to Surrender for sailing through to the top 4. Shaxi and Alutimu, obviously everyone's still in the running. Having another look at Shaxi's lineup compared to Glory and Alutimu, who have effectively the same lineup with the difference of Galakron versus Highlander on their rogue. Sorry, whereas Shaxi has the Resurrect Priest. Do you think overall, if you had to guess, gut feeling, is that going to hurt him or help him?
It seems like the priest is against Demon Hunter particularly.